Hey, my name is TJ. I'm a person in long-term recovery. For me, that means I haven't had a drink or a drug since August 9th, 2016. I'm here today hosting the Recovery Matters podcast with...
My name's Luke. I'm in recovery. My clean date is October 20th, 2022. No drink, no drug, mind mood-altering substance in about 2.5 years now.
Nice, dude. That's awesome.
Yep.
I'm glad to have you on. I do know a little bit about your story, but I know you got a really good story. You're involved in a lot of recovery stuff now.
Yes, definitely.
So I'd love to hear all about it. So let's start off. Tell me what your life was like growing up.
So from a young age, like I came from a really good family. There was no abuse. There was no neglect in my family. My whole life was just sports, from very young, and a big part of my story is ego. I had a lot of friends. I was really popular and I was the best player at every sport at every level my whole life. So from a young age, I really had a big ego and thought I was the shit, you know what I mean? And then as I got older, I kind of got into a group of friends, and I always say this because I go speak in the prisons, I speak in a lot of treatment centers, and I always say it was the 50 Cent era when I grew up, and we thought we were gonna get rich or die trying at 12 years old. We literally had the studio in my room. We started selling weed. This was middle school, and really thought we were gangster rappers at the time, and we kind of just grew into that. Started selling weed, smoking weed really young, and then I kept playing sports, but then at some point, out of nowhere, just like that, one of the guys in my little crew, there was 4 or 5 of us, and he just had a source of, the painkillers, of really potent, the Oxy 80s. That was the time when they were everywhere. And, my introduction to narcotics was really enticing because we started making a lot of money really fast. We had nice cars. We were hanging out with all the older kids, and all the girls wanted to hang out with us. And then, I'll never forget, I tried it. And, as soon as I did it, I vomited and I fell in love immediately. And it ruled my life for the next 15 years. And, went on a huge run with addiction that, took half my life pretty much until I came to the rooms and people took me under their wing and showed me the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you graduate high school.
Yes.
You're already on the bad path.
Oh, I was already an IV drug user in high school. I had already done treatments and everything by the time I was, before I even graduated. And then I graduate the summer after I graduated. I used to hang out at the barber shop and sweep up hair, and I'd go get them lunch and stuff. They liked me and they just had me around and give me a few bucks here and there. And I went and got him lunch one day, and I got a call from my father, and he's like, "Hey, you got to get down to the hospital right now." I'm like, "Why? What's going on?" And he's like, "Just get down here. I can't talk." And I went down there, and I saw my mother sitting on the gurney, and that day they found out she had stage 4 brain cancer that day.
Oh, God.
So I had already had my addiction was really starting to progress. And then right then and there, when they said my mother had brain cancer, it was I had no direction in life. I didn't know what I was going to do. And that's really when my life really changed, for the worse. I was kind of dibbling and dabbling, but after that is when things really took a turn for the worse, for sure.
How old were you when you lost your mom?
So I graduated high school. So for 3 years, she was fighting. She would get chemo, radiation. I think I was 22 when she finally passed away. For 3 years, she fought it. And then, after the 3rd time when the cancer came back, she decided to get a major brain surgery, and it was going to either, help and give her some more years, or it was going to take her life. And she ended up dying 2 months after the surgery,
Yeah, dude, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Things took off from there.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's when the homelessness started, going in and out of jail started, going in and out of treatment. And I'm a chronic overdoser. I've overdosed about 40 times in my life. My father could vouch for that. My last relapse, I think it was 7 times in 10 days. I think in my lifetime, my father probably Narcaned me or called the paramedics at least 20 times. He came home and found me blue and stuff like that. And that's but when my mother died, that's when things really took off. And, I ended up catching a serious charge. And, God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. I went to jail for over a year. And that year away from drugs, just being away from drugs, not not working on myself, not doing recovery, I came home and like really kind of got my life together.
Yep.
And, I got a place, I got a job, I got a car, and like things were going good. But of course, like I said, that ego, I did that, I got that job, I got this place, not knowing like a lot of people helped me. And, eventually my ego took over again. I started using, and it was just a matter of time until I was back in treatment or, like running from parole and stuff like that. And,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go back to treatment again, and, and just the never ending cycle. You know what I mean?
So when you had that first taste of recovery, right?
Yes.
You're in jail. I
wouldn't call it recovery. I would just call it abstinence from drugs. But yeah, I know what you mean.
where you started to feel a little bit better, right?
Better, yes, yes.
Because that first experience for me was that I was 18, 19, I was in jail. I was signing up for a bid.
You start feeling good.
Yep.
You start getting your weight up. Yeah, you start feeling good.
People are writing, you're writing people back. It's like, I think I'm going to do this.
Yep.
But like, you don't understand recovery.
Yeah, you don't.
Right.
Until you really become honest, open-minded, and willing to do whatever it takes.
Yep.
And I learned that along my journey too,
Yep. So you relapse. You experienced a lot of homelessness, huh?
Yes, yeah.
Where? Streets of Hartford?
So the guys in my circle, we always use this as, I always use this as my reference point. I always talk about the tent. I was in the tent in Pope Park in Hartford, and like, I don't know how long I was there. It was probably a few months, but I always tell them it was just one day. It was just one long day. It was the same day over and over and over, waking up, feeling like I'm going to die. How am I going to find money to do this and do that? And, what my diet was when I was living in that tent? Probably every 2 or 3 days, I'd go like spend $2-3 at the dollar store. I'd get a box of granola bars and a thing of juice, and that was my diet. And I was like 110 pounds. And
Jesus,
it was I was willing to kill and die, not to get sick, and like I just wanted my life to end. I just remember that. I'll never forget that feeling, and that's why I take that with me every day, living in that tent in Pope Park, and just at my very worst. That was my lowest moments in life, and from there, I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. And I decided to go to treatment. And this is when my recovery journey kind of started. I don't say it started. I go to treatment. I go to a sober house. I get a sponsor. I don't really use it. Don't really understand what sponsorship really is at the time. I go to meetings. I'm not involved. I just show up. And, I kind of white knuckled it. And I found out I was going to have my daughter, my first daughter. And I was like, all right, I got to really try here. You know what I mean? And do something, because I knew I needed something bigger than myself. And, so I white knuckled it for about 6 months. I ended up overdosing I ended up relapsing a month before she was born, and I overdosed in the delivery room when she was born.
Jesus.
I had to be escorted out of they Narcaned me, and they took me out of the hospital and everything. And that day, when I saw her born, that day, right then and there, I'm like, all right, this is it. And that's when my recovery journey really started. And then the rest is history. So I always give the credit to my kids, like my first daughter, that's why I'm here where I am now. And then, I just had a daughter born about a month ago, and that really just kicked my recovery back into cause I kind of lost that spark. You kind of, after a couple years, I needed a change in my recovery. So I got a new sponsor, I got a new home group. I started working on steps, I sponsor guys now, but seeing her born, and then once I went to treatment after she was born, it's like, all right, I'm taking this all the way. And I did.
Where'd you go?
So for treatment,
Yep.
I went to Lebanon Pines.
Nice.
And then I got out, got into a sober house, a really, really good spot where a lot of good has come out of in New Britain. And I probably did 180 meetings my first 90 days. I had at least one commitment a month for my whole first year, made coffee or was door greeter, chaired meetings. At 9 months, I got an H&I panel. I still do H&I to this day. I'm actually the panel coordinator for, the treatment center we go to every Tuesday.
Nice.
I sponsor guys and our relationship is really good with me and my sponsees. That, it means more to me seeing them, get their lives together and stuff like that than anything. And me being a part of that just feels so cool. And then I would say 7 months clean, I started my own business. And I didn't really know anything about business. I didn't really know anything about, the business world at all. I had a lot of people help me out with that. And I started a car detailing business, and, we're going on 2 years in business in May.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and like that's another thing. Like I'm able to help out, and like I got 4 or 5 guys that work for me here and there. I'm able to give guys jobs and stuff like that. And then yeah, and then beginning of this year in January, I came across an opportunity. One of my business partners, he had a property. He's like, listen, I know you're into recovery, you're really deep into it, and like I know you know a lot of people. He's like, yo, listen, I'll give you the keys. If you want to make this into a sober house, you do that. So me and my girlfriend, we furnished it, we put the whole place together, and just word of mouth. We got guys, we got 4 or 5 guys in there, and it's just been going ever since. And like we were telling before, I was talking to you before. What was the CCAR? What is it?
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, one of those, and they came and met with me today, and we're going to start getting guys from there, and it's just been history ever since. And now we're just moving forward, and it's really amazing. Like I treat every day as a gift. Every day I wake up, I work for myself, and like I just love life today, and I'll never forget that tent and what it was like living there, and how much like more grateful I am for life with the experiences that I've been through.
Yes. What do you think was one of the biggest lessons you learned in recovery?
Yeah, so humbleness for sure, humbleness and service. Like I needed something, like I said, an ego has been a huge part of my life. And like ego is good in a certain way if you use it the right way, but like it could really hinder you like bad if you don't really keep it in check. And my kids humbled me.
Yep.
And like another thing, like I'm doing great in life, but I've got people around me that are doing like way, I'm shooting for that, and that keeps me humble. Like, millionaires, I put myself around millionaires and I see them and how they live. It's like, yeah, I want to be there. And, I got to be humble and, put in work and put my time in and service, like giving back and like, H&I, I love H&I. I said, I'll do that as long as I'm breathing and I'm clean. I'm going to do H&I because I remember what it was like being in those treatment centers and people coming in and sharing a message with me, and like I love it. I love H&I, and I love sponsoring guys and being a part of the community and trying to do better and trying to help. It's funny because I had a conversation with my father, and like it's like, yo, I don't think anyone is meant to be an addict. No one is meant to grow up to be an addict, but like I really don't think I was supposed to, and like I wouldn't change my story for anything because it made me who I am, but like I don't think this was like what I was supposed to do, was to be out there shooting dope and, going to jail. And like now that I'm clean, it's like, all right, now I see like my purpose is to help and give back and try to do the best I can and just give my kids a life, that they could be happy and healthy. So that's kind of what I learned. Step work too. Step work has really taught me a lot about myself. My 4th step, I'm currently finishing up my 9th step where I make amends to the people in my life that I hurt. So like those are huge, like life-changing and prolific moments in my life for sure.
You still into music?
Yeah. So I grew up, like I said, we grew up in the 50 Cent era, and rap, like I used to, like I had a little following. I started like, I was a battle rapper. I battled all over New England. I've done, music videos and shows and performed. And it was the most important thing in my life because I had nothing else. I still do it now. But I only do it like as a hobby. It's not the most important thing in my life anymore, but I still have a passion for it. I still like to be creative and do stuff like that. And like I'll still come out with a music video here and there, but it's not the most important thing in my life. Like just like basketball, like my season just ended. I actually sponsored the team through my business, and we had a good team. We had a good season, but like, now that the season's over, it's like, all right, good. Now I'm kind of glad because now I can hit more meetings, and I really need that with my daughter being born. It's like I need help now. I need help from the people around me, and But yeah, music and basketball are huge parts of my life. It's just not the most important thing like it used to be.
Yeah,
and that stuff gets to my head. It does. Like I start thinking I'm the shit again. It does. It's true.
I think recovery opened up a lot of that for me.
Yeah.
Like I remember being an athlete as a kid. That was like something I always loved. And then I was never, so like I was always like tall and lanky.
Yep.
I never had enough weight on me to do any like so I didn't like actually grow into like being more athletic till I was like a little bit older.
Yeah. You grow into your body, yeah.
And I don't know, I love like, so getting sober, playing volleyball all summer with the sober guys.
Yep.
We'll do like this game,
when we were playing ball, remember?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I used to love that. I think I was fresh out of treatment when we started playing there.
Yep.
That was fun. I love doing that.
Yeah.
You got to set something up like that again.
I'm definitely down for that.
You got to figure out a gym or something and do that again.
Oh yeah, I could get a
a lot of guys to play. For sure.
And like that type of stuff, and some music too. So I was bored all night,
Yep.
I couldn't sleep. I
Yeah.
came home from detox, blah blah blah.
Yep.
And I was sleeping at my parents. I was sleeping at my parents' house.
Yep.
My childhood twin bed.
Yeah.
And my stepdad was like, "Yo, here's a guitar and shit. Learn."
Yeah.
And I started watching YouTube videos and stuff.
Just
Now
picked it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we're quick learners. I think like I think you alluded to this, but like I think people who struggle with addiction,
Yeah.
like my brain works very very fast.
It's crazy. It's
know,
crazy.
and like
I need to be creative. Like
Yes.
I have to do creative things, or I I go crazy. Like I have to do things to express myself.
Yep.
And we don't do that with drugs anymore. So like we find outlets to do that, and like music for sure, definitely. It's a huge part. Yeah.
and like just that. I need to like it is like an excessive compulsive trait,
Yes,
right? Like
yeah.
addiction is a very excessive
Yeah,
compulsive, right? I have a thought about drugs and alcohol. I need it. I want it.
Yup.
This is it. This
Yup.
is what I'm doing, right? So it's like the similar with like
Yes.
healthy activities, right?
Yeah.
Getting clean, getting sober, getting into like those things that make us, feel good. That's not drugs and alcohol,
Yep.
right? Like
Yeah.
being a good employee,
Yeah.
right? Being a good, business owner, right?
Business
Like this is
owner,
this is what I do. Like, same thing, and like being heavily involved, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me about being a dad.
Love it. I will never, like, I always give the credit to my kids for where I am today. And like I talked about my mom. My mother's whole purpose in life was to be a mom and like be our mom, and she was the best. And like unless you knew her, I couldn't really express in words like who she was, and that rubbed off on me. And I love being a dad. I come home every day, like we just got a big trampoline. I come home
Nice.
from work every day, like tired. I still go on that trampoline and jump with the kids, and like my daughter is so smart. Like my oldest daughter, she's gonna be 3 in September, and she's just so smart. We have full on conversations, and it blows my mind how smart she is.
Yeah.
And then, we just had a baby a month ago, and she's just so beautiful. And like being able to take her home and like from the hospital and watch her grow up from like the time she was born means a lot. I didn't get to do that with my first daughter. Like,
Yep.
and that's the gifts of recovery that today, like I could, from the day she's born, she's with me. She's not going nowhere, and I'm gonna give her the best life I can. And
That's
I love
amazing.
being a father. I take pride in it. I really do. Like,
Yeah.
like my father, like he's my best friend today,
Yep.
and we're an Italian family. Like he wasn't like he would come to my games, my football games, basketball. He never said good game, but he would come there. He lived with us. And like, today he's my best friend. That's just the way he was. It's an Italian family. His father was the same way. They never say I love you. They don't, that's just not how they are. But like, I'm not like that. I'm telling my kids, you're the best. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I love it. You're beautiful. Like I love having daughters. I wanted a boy so bad, but God gave me girls for a reason.
Yeah.
I needed that, and it's the most important thing in my life is my kids and giving them a good life and making sure they're happy and healthy. And I get that from my mother and the way she was with us, and always taking us on trips and stuff. I have so many plans I want to take them to do, like once they get old enough. Like my oldest daughter, she's old enough now to do a lot of stuff I want to take her to do, but as my younger girl gets older, she's gonna realize how cool and how fun dad is, and it's gonna be a fun journey for sure, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
If you had to give some form of advice or support to somebody new in recovery, what's something you would tell them?
So like I said, I speak a lot. I go,
Yep.
I'm asked to speak in a lot of treatment centers and jails, and I always say, listen, that desire to use goes away. I know at first it doesn't seem like it is. I remember sitting in those chairs and just thought, this is the card I was dealt. I'm going to get high for the rest of my life. But give it 1 year. If you give Narcotics Anonymous or AA or whatever your thing is, if you give some type of self-help for 1 year and you become of service, it's going to open up doors, and it's going to open up your eyes like you never thought was possible. And that's like, so my first sponsor, he really put me in a headlock. He's like, all right, come on, you're coming with me. Like, and I'm not giving up. Like, they didn't take no for an answer. And that's where I learned it from. Like, all right, I'm gonna give this a year of my time and see how it goes. And that misery is always out there. It's never,
Yep.
it's the same guys are still right on that same block doing the same thing they were when I left.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all right, let's see how this goes. And then as like, I'm blessed. I put myself, like, my story isn't the same as everyone. I put myself, and I was just happened to be around the right people at the right time. And like the way my life changed within 2.5 years is crazy. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm blessed. And, I got to thank God for that. And that was my path, I guess, you know what I mean? But yeah, I would say give it a year, your time. And like, you know, if you don't like it, you do whatever you want. But watch by the end of that year, you're going to see how much it changed, you know?
My favorite thing to talk about in recovery is the catalyst,
Okay.
right? So I got dropped off at Rushford Detox, and I was sitting there and I threw a fit.
Yeah.
And it was a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people talk about that white light experience.
Yes.
That didn't happen right away for me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in detox and I'm like, I can't wait till everybody takes their eyes off me.
And then
So
bounce.
I'm never going to do heroin and cocaine again.
Yeah.
But I'm going to drink and smoke weed.
Yeah.
And then I get into recovery. I started to hang around recovery people,
Yes.
right? And recovery started to work for me.
Okay.
So I started to go through all these experiences
Yep.
and then staying sober.
Yep.
And then I did this and then I stayed sober.
Yep.
And then I don't know what it was, but like one day I woke up and I wanted to go to a meeting.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't like forced to. I wasn't like, you know, I want to hear about your catalyst thing, right? Where did you wake up in that tent and you were like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I never want to live like this ever again. I'm
Yeah.
literally willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Or was it like, I'm going to do this so I have a place to sleep tonight?
So at first it was that. It was like, all right, I'm going to do this just to make everybody else happy. I don't really like the people here. I really don't like this scene. But like along the way, they became my friends. Now everybody in my life has a sponsor. They all write steps. They own businesses. They're all productive members of society. But it wasn't like one day I was like, all right, yeah. But like, you know, and even with step work, like I was like, I don't see the goal in this step work thing. But like, so like for the first 3 steps, I really didn't notice much change. But then after I did my 4th step, I was like, wow, okay. I took all that shit, left it there, and I never had to, you know what I mean, think about it again.
Yes.
And I think after my 4th step is when I was like, okay, there is something to this. And, you know, like taking suggestions from people who came before me and like really starting getting involved and doing service work and stuff like that. Like I was a secretary too at a meeting for a whole year. That's a year commitment. That's another service I did. And but like H&I, I had to get involved in that stuff because, like I said, I need to be part of something bigger than me.
Yes.
And you know, like my higher power, whatever it is for anyone else, I don't know exactly what my higher power is, but I know that it's loving, caring, and it's greater than me. And every day I wake up and I just say thank you for another day. Like just thank you for everything. And that's why I stay clean today, is just because I wake up every day and I'm just grateful for the life I have.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the sayings a grateful addict never uses, and I truly believe that. And like being in touch with something bigger than me is something I needed. And like I said, like the catalyst though, yeah, I didn't come into this happy, joyous, and free.
No.
I was not happy about any of this. Like I fought it, you know, like I said, these guys put me in a headlock and dragged me here, and like I needed that. That's what I needed, and that's how it happened. Yeah.
I was just thinking about this old dude I used to hang. He wasn't that old. He was like probably 40 and I was like 22, 23.
Yeah.
And he was an Army vet.
Yeah.
And him and his wife were both in the program. And he used to come and pick me up for these meetings all the time. And my dad had helped him out like 20 years earlier when he was my age.
Really?
So there was that like cycle of life connection.
Yes.
And so I always used to get a lot of shit from old timers, like old people.
Yeah.
You know, of course, right? You're the youngest guy in the room, blah, blah, blah. This guy never really treated me like that.
Yeah.
Right? He was just mad cool. Like there was not like this judgment thing. And like, I remember telling him like one time I was like, you know, I blah, blah, blah. And I just want to get high, dude. Like this whole thing sucks. I can't believe I signed up for this. You know, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yo, listen, dude, like one time I was like fixing my car and I like wanted a cop so bad. I just threw everything together, destroyed my entire car, driving it broken to Hartford to get heroin. And like, I just felt like super connected to him in that moment. And he was like, you know, like, you know, the thing is we don't have to live like that today. Yeah. Right. And like, there's there's those specific people that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Sure. And that's the thing. Like, you know, I wouldn't be here unless the people before me showed me the way, and the people that showed them. And like, that's all I'm trying to do now, because that's how this whole thing works. You know, you just show people the way that you were shown, and that's really how this whole thing works. And like, I'm grateful for everything that I lived through, and like that got me here today. Yeah. If anyone out there is struggling, just know, like, you know, go get help, do the right thing. You know, people care about you, and you know, other than that, yeah, that's pretty much all the message that I have to say. It was
Dude,
just cool to come and do this. So I thank you guys for sure.
yeah, you're amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.